Liam from Grump Dog Games has had a pretty successful run with Train Sim World content over the last few years, being involved in projects such as the fantastic Great Western Express remaster as well as the more recent East Coastway remaster. Both of those releases were very well received by the community, and understandably so, as they brought a noticeable uplift in quality, detail and overall immersion to routes that many players already knew and loved. Now, his latest addition to Train Sim World 6 comes in the form of the GWR HST Farewell Pack, a tribute not only to the iconic high-speed train and its final years in service with GWR, but also a celebration of 200 years of modern railways as a whole. So already, before even loading into it, there's a sense that this DLC is aiming to be something a little bit more special than your average add-on. The DLC itself comes with 7 different power cars, 6 scenarios spread across 2 different routes, all of which are inspired by real-world events, and 2 Mark 1 HST barrier coach designs in both blue and green liveries. And of course, we also get a cheeky journey mode thrown in there as well to tie everything together nicely. On paper, that's not a bad package at all for £12.99, but the real question is, does it actually deliver on that value? Well, in this video, I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions on this pack from a fairly layman perspective, so whether you're a hardcore rail enthusiast or just someone who enjoys hopping in and driving trains from time to time, hopefully this helps you decide. First things first, let's talk about the liveries themselves. Now unfortunately, I haven't personally had the pleasure of seeing any of these special liveries in real life. In fact, I've never even been properly up close and personal with a HST at all, which I know is probably a bit criminal considering how iconic they are. But even with that being the case, it is still incredibly clear to me just how well crafted and detailed these liveries are in the game. There's a real sense of care and attention that's gone into them. The standout for me personally has to be the inclusion of the 3D assets within certain liveries. Things like badges, crests, and raised detailing that go beyond just being a flat texture. It adds a level of depth that you don't always expect to see. The Intercity Swallow power car in particular really stood out to me. The crest work on that is absolutely stunning, and it genuinely caught me off guard just how good it looked when viewed up close. And it's not just that one either. Across all the liveries, the colour combinations are just beautiful. They really do pop, especially under different lighting conditions, and they give each run a slightly different feel depending on which one you're using. Next up, let's move on to the scenarios. Now, if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know that for years I've been quite critical of scenarios in Train Sim World as a whole. My stance has always been that the scenarios should be more than just a slightly tweaked timetable run with a bit of rain thrown in. They should feel like an event, something memorable, something that stands out, and ideally something that reflects a real life moment in railway history. And I'm very happy to say that the HST Farewell Pack absolutely leans into that philosophy. As I mentioned earlier, all of the included scenarios are inspired by real world events, and it doesn't just stop at that level either. Liam has clearly gone the extra mile to ensure that details such as the weather conditions, schedule, and even unit numbers are as close to reality as possible, and that level of authenticity really does elevate the experience. Having now played through all of the scenarios, I can confidently say there's a lot of good there, with just a small amount of bad. Naturally, the open day scenario, down by Dawlish scenario, and the farewell scenario were all genuinely impressive. The level of detail throughout these was excellent, and at no point did I feel like anything had been rushed or lazily put together. There are plenty of additional assets placed around the environment to help sell the atmosphere, and it really does feel like you're part of something significant rather than just another service run. However, on a slightly more disappointing note, we have the epilogue scenario. Now, Arguably, this is one of, if not the most important scenario in the entire pack, given the theme of the HST tribute and closure. But without going into spoilers too much, the way certain events were presented felt unnecessarily rushed. There are multiple fade-ins and fade-outs used to skip over moments that, in my opinion, players would have actually really enjoyed experiencing in full. It's a bit of a missed opportunity because the emotional weight is there, it just feels like it wasn't fully allowed to breathe. That being said though, I am still very impressed with the standard of scenarios in the pack. If this level of quality and meaning was the benchmark across all of Train Sim World, I think I would be in a much happier place with regards to the scenarios. Now let's talk about something a little bit less positive. The bugs. Of course, it's TSW after all. In terms of bugginess, there were a couple of issues that I encountered during my time with the DLC. Only two that are really worth talking about, but unfortunately both of them do have quite a noticeable impact on the gameplay experience. Now the first one is the return of a bug that I genuinely thought had been left behind in either TSW2 or 3. And that is the issue where if you have the safety systems switched on in the opposite cab to the one you're driving from, they can still trip you up. So for example, you're driving along, everything seems absolutely fine in your cab, you're taking care of AWS when it goes off, you're taking care of the DSD when it goes off, and then all of a sudden, the emergency brakes are on and you're penalized for something that happened in the other end of the train. It's confusing, breaks immersion, and it's just one of those things that really shouldn't be making a comeback if we're being honest. But while it is disappointing, it's also not entirely surprising. If you've been around Train Sim World for any length of time, you'll know that old bugs resurfacing is unfortunately just part of the experience at this point. The second issue I encountered was seemingly random TPWS brake applications. This happened 3 times during my playthrough, which included all 6 scenarios and a few timetable services across both the Great Western Express and Riviera line. What made this particularly strange though was that each time it happened, the waiting time for the brakes to release was different. There didn't seem to be any clear pattern or consistency to them. Now, neither of these issues I've mentioned are completely game breaking, but they are definitely frustrating. And perhaps even more frustrating is the reality that we're probably not going to see any fixes for this until TSW7, if ever. So, is the GWR HST Farewell Pack worth £12.99? Honestly, that's always going to come down to you and what you value in a DLC. But speaking purely from my own perspective, I do think it's worth it. When you compare this pack to other similarly priced content in the game, it holds up very well. The scenarios and journey mode alone offer several hours of meaningful gameplay, and there's definitely replayability with the variety of liveries available. On top of that, we're getting 2 variants of a new coach type, which is always nice to see, and let's not forget that the liveries for the power cars can layer into other routes wherever their HSTs appear. And that adds even more long-term value beyond just the included content. So ultimately for me, £12.99 feels like a fair and justified price point for what's on offer here. But that's just my take on it. What about you guys? How are you enjoying the DLC so far? Have you had the same or similar experience as I have? Or has your time with it been completely different? Let me know down in the comments and let's have a proper conversation about it. I hope this video has been helpful and informative to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Till the next one, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, stay safe, health is wealth, have a lovely rest of your day, and until next time, peace out.